Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Man, I am excited to be back. Haven't done a podcast in about 2 months. Took some time off. Got some work done. Had to do some things, move some things around. Been back and forth across the country a couple of times. Lots of stuff going on, a lot of things happening in the world, a lot of things that are happening in the world that affect business on a daily basis, a lot of things that affect us in our lives on a daily basis, and kind of the mesh between the two. Anybody that listens to this podcast regularly knows that the Jerry Brazy podcast is about life. It's about what's happening in the world. It's about how that impacts business. It's about success. It's about failure. Oh man, can I tell you stories about failure here lately? And it tries to get across what it takes in life to find success, to be that person that you would like to be, to get that insight into somebody who's come from very little and has been able to achieve quite a bit. So if that's something that interests you, check it out. Listen to the podcast regularly. We're back on time again, typically 2 times a week, about an hour each podcast. And trust me, it can be anything that we want to talk about, but it's primarily around life, success, business, and what it takes to achieve and how, like I said, it takes to work through and survive the big losses that life throws at you. The one thing of interest really quick that I'll do on this short podcast, not really a podcast, just me screaming about a couple of things. One thing in particular, though, is Twitter and my take on Twitter. I've been saying this for a long time about the social media sites. It's nothing new. I'm surprised this hasn't gotten more play. But it has in the last couple of days since Elon Musk stepped in, as everybody knows, and has had his offer accepted. As soon as he put that offer in, I took my kids and my wife aside one night in the living room, and I said to them, remember where you're sitting right now. This is when Elon had made the offer, and it had yet to be accepted. But I said, remember this day, remember this week, remember this time in life, in history, I should say, because this will be a critical turning point in history. This will be the time that we are able to open up free speech, open up opinion, and give people the ability on both sides of the aisle, regardless of what your opinions are, to have them out there shared freely, to have the information that you think you have shared freely, to have the knowledge that you think is correct shared freely. And then I get the freedom to decide whether or not what you have said is correct, to decide whether or not what you're telling me is something that I should listen to do my own research because you planted that thought in my mind, or to just blindly follow whatever it is someone says on the internet as if it were the word of God. That's my right. And that right has been so taken away, so throttled back, so cut by ideologues making decisions that it has rendered most of those platforms useless to opinion makers, but powerful to the ones that control it. So my message about, or my thoughts on Twitter buying, or Twitter getting bought by Elon Musk is this. I think that it is a monumental sea change because social media has so throttled back free speech together as a group. I believe they also work with the government while they're doing it, but to back off that just a little bit, together as a group, they are working to usurp, if you will, the Constitution and the will of the people and what people are what people want, what America's all about. They've been able to, working again with the government, throttle back that information. So when someone comes in like Elon Musk and buys it, it leaves the other 3 or 4, Facebook, Google, Instagram, YouTube, those ones are all left out in the cold holding the bag without the same amount of power. See, they don't have the power separately. They have to have the power together. And when one, like Twitter, although it's the smallest one, but it's got a big voice, like Elon said, it's the de facto town square. When that one steps out and all of a sudden that free flow of information gets moving on a scale like what Twitter can provide, the other ones are going to have problems. They're going to have trouble taking care of it. The fight that Twitter is going to go through, and Elon Musk is going to go through here to try and bring this deal to completion, is going to be massive. But it's very important. It's a monumental change in history. It's that seminal moment, another seminal moment in American history in particular. I don't care what the international markets are. I don't care what happens over in Europe relative to Twitter. I only care about what happens here. And this is, and remember this, write this down for you and your kids and anybody who has an interest in these moments in history when change happens. I think that that's what this is. This is that big. And so that seminal moment that we're watching as Elon tries to close this deal and buy Twitter, thereby opening up free speech platforms for everybody, it will induce, it will force, it will put the pressure on all of the other oligarchs that are running all of the other social media outlets and media generally speaking, and everybody, I think, will be forced then to open up and provide the same level of transparency, the same level of service, the same level of opportunity, and get rid of this nonsensical, crazy 2.5, 3 years of censorship that we've seen, particularly in the time of COVID. So I'm excited about that. I like that a lot. That's my take. I think it's a seminal moment. I think it's a sea change, and I think that we're going to see a lot of good things happen after the fight that's going to take place as Elon tries to buy it. Jerry Brazy Podcast. Listen, like, follow, check us out. Go to the web. Go to my Facebook page, Jerry Brazy. Check us out at the Jerry Brazy Podcast, Jerry Brazy on Instagram. You can find us on YouTube. And like I said, go Twitter, Jerry Brazy. Go try us out. Like, hit the button, hit the subscribe button. Wherever you listen to podcasts, check us out.